In 2023, a lawyer filed a legal brief in a federal court. The brief looked professional. It was well written, properly formatted, and it cited multiple precedent cases to support its argument. There was one small problem. None of the cases existed. ChatGPT had invented them. It had made up case names, citations, even judicial opinions. The legal brief was a complete fiction presented with total confidence. The lawyer didn't check. He trusted the AI because it sounded authoritative and convincing. He's now facing sanctions. His reputation is damaged, and it was completely preventable. This isn't a story about AI being dangerous. It's actually a story about a skill failure. The lawyer skipped the most important part of working with AI, the part we're covering in this module. Quality assurance, verification, human judgment. These are all essential in any AI integrated project because AI will confidently lie to you. And if you don't know how to catch it, those lies will become your problem. Before you can effectively check AI's work, you need to understand what it actually is. Not what it feels like to use, but what it's really doing. In essence, AI is a pattern matching engine. It predicts the most likely word based on billions of examples from its training data. That's it. There's no fact checker running in the background. No understanding of what's true and false. No genuine awareness of what it's saying, or whether it makes sense, or whether it corresponds to reality. When you ask it a question, it generates an answer that matches patterns it has learned. Sometimes, honestly, often, those patterns lead to accurate information. Sometimes they lead to plausible sounding nonsense. And here's the critical part. AI cannot tell the difference. It will invent citations with the same confidence it uses when citing real sources. It will state outdated information as current fact. It will generate logical contradictions while maintaining a perfectly professional and indeed very sane tone throughout. Think about how autocorrect can work when you're texting. Your phone suggests the next word based on patterns from how you usually write. Sometimes it nails it. And sometimes it suggests something completely wrong for what you're trying to say, and you ignore it without even thinking about it. But when AI generates a full paragraph or document, it's much harder to spot these bad suggestions because they're woven into text that mostly makes sense. They may sound plausible. They're almost always formatted professionally. The writing quality makes everything seem legitimate. That's why you can't just read AI output and trust your gut. You need a systematic approach to catch what's wrong. AI has predictable failure modes. That is, ways that it goes wrong. Once you know what they are, you can watch for them. It hallucinates, inventing facts that sound real but aren't. Its training data has a cutoff date, so it doesn't always know what happened after that. It amplifies whatever biases existed in its training data. It's context blind about stakes, appropriateness, and real-world implications. And it will at times contradict itself, especially in longer outputs where it might say one thing and then say the opposite 3 paragraphs later. And it's frequently tone deaf. It can generate technically accurate content that's inappropriate for a sensitive situation that you're dealing with. None of these aspects are bugs. This is just how AI works. What this means is that quality assurance isn't optional. Instead, it's a mandatory core skill that separates people who use AI well from people who get burned by it. Professional quality assurance within AI-integrated projects means checking 4 things systematically every time. You can think about them as being 4 different lenses you look through when evaluating AI output. The first pillar is factual accuracy. AI doesn't have a truth detector. It generates what seems plausible based on patterns. Your job is to verify anything specific: statistics, dates, citations, technical specs, proper names, scientific claims. Specific details are where AI most often invents things. You can catch this by flagging every factual claim and verifying the important ones against authoritative sources. This doesn't mean something like Wikipedia. This doesn't mean something that was generated by another AI tool. The best is a primary source, some sort of official document, if possible. And this is important. The more confident and specific AI sounds, the more carefully you need to check. Confidence means absolutely nothing. The second pillar is logical coherence. AI can write beautifully and still not make sense. It can contradict itself, draw conclusions that don't actually follow from the evidence, or use examples that don't actually support the point being made. You can catch this by outlining the argument structure as you read. Does point A actually lead to point B? Do the examples match what they're supposed to illustrate? Are there hidden assumptions or logical leaps that don't hold up under scrutiny? You need to read actively and question the logic. Don't let smooth writing distract you from flawed reasoning. The third pillar is bias and fairness. This is the pillar most people skip, and it's arguably the most important. AI training reflects societal biases. And AI can perpetuate or amplify these biases without you noticing if you're not looking for it. You need to actively examine whose perspectives are included and whose are missing. Who is portrayed how? What assumptions are baked into the language? Who's treated as the normal audience? You can catch this by asking, who's invisible in the content? What's assumed about the audience? Would this make sense in different contexts? Who could be harmed or excluded by the assumptions that the output makes? This is about ensuring professional quality. Biased content alienates audiences and can violate professional or legal standards in your field. The fourth pillar is voice and authenticity. Most AI models tend to have a default style. Each one is a little bit different, but the default tends to be something that's professional, articulate, and slightly formal. many AI models love certain phrases, such as delve into. It's important to note, in today's digital landscape, unlock the potential. It might use certain punctuation marks, such as em dashes, much more than most people do. This might not match your brand, your audience, or your purpose. Read the output aloud. Does it sound like you or your organization? Or does it sound like generic AI writing? Look out for telltale phrases, generic statements that could apply to anything, an overly balanced structure. AI tends to love three-part lists in particular. You can fix this by injecting personality, specific details, and appropriate tone. Sometimes that means heavily revising the AI output. Sometimes it means recognizing that the voice is so wrong, you need to start over and maybe even get things started yourself. The voice of the material that you're creating needs to match your audience, your purpose, and the needs of the organization and team that you are working with and for. The voice should not just be by default what AI naturally produces. So how do you actually do this in practice? Well, you need a workflow, a system you follow every time so that nothing slips through. The first step is to read through whatever the AI creates once without stopping. Just get a gut reaction. Does something feel off? What's your immediate impression? Trust those instincts, but then investigate them systematically. Then go through each of the 4 pillars one at a time. Mark up factual claims that need verification. Outline the logical structure. Note any bias issues. Highlight voice and tone concerns. This will take quite a while, depending on the length of the material, but it's time well spent because it will catch problems before they become attached to your reputation. This is where your expertise matters the most. You have to make a professional judgment about quality that AI cannot make for itself. Now, not everything needs the same level of scrutiny. Professionals calibrate their review based on the stakes. High-stakes content, such as legal documents, medical information, public-facing documents, anything affecting safety or well-being, that gets the full treatment. Verify everything. If you can, get multiple reviewers and expert consultation. Medium-stakes content, such as internal communications, marketing, or training materials, should get a systematic 4-pillar review, as well as a spot checking of facts and a standard revision process, just like you would do for human-created content. Lower-stakes content, such as brainstorming, draft outlines, and anything that you're using for personal use, should still get a quick review for obvious errors, but doesn't require extensive fact-checking. The stakes determines the intensity of your review, but you should never skip quality assurance entirely, because even low-stakes content can contain embarrassing errors if you're not paying attention. Look, I know quality assurance isn't the exciting part. Generating content is fast and feels productive. Checking everything feels slow and tedious, like homework you'd rather skip. But this is where professional AI orchestrators actually separate themselves from everyone else just messing around with the tools. Anyone can ask AI to generate content. Literally anyone. But not everyone can tell when the content is wrong or inappropriate. And not everyone knows how to fix it effectively. That judgment, that critical eye, is what makes you valuable in a world where everyone has access to the same AI tools. AI can't evaluate its own accuracy. It has no mechanism for that. It can't determine strategic alignment or ethical soundness because it has no values or goals beyond generating plausible text. But you can do all of those things. And the more you practice systematic quality assurance, the better you'll get at it.